Hello everyone, and welcome to the showdown between the Dwarves, who are going to be led by Rune Lord, and the High Elves, who are going to be led by Teclis. So yes, we are here with a throwback to the War of Vengeance, and the Dwarf vs. High Elf matchup, thematically, is definitely one of my favorite showdowns to have. Over Christmas, Lady Turin actually got me the Dwarf Omnibus from Warhammer Fantasy. I believe it's called the Masters of Stone and Steel, and I'm currently reading one of the stories, which I believe is called The Grudge Bear, and it's about Grombrindle, and it is so damn cool. It has like flashbacks to Snorri Whitebeard and Grombrindle and the relationship between the elves and the dwarves, and man, that nothing like gets me motivated to go play dwarves in Total War Warhammer like reading those books. But anyways, yes, we're here with the dwarves, and as far as the army composition goes, we do have miners on the front line with blasting charges, and they're definitely pretty important on this map. This map is the Red Desert. There's a bit of a lip right here, so there's actually fog of war. If you look up in the minimap, I could not see the High Elf army right out of the gate, so I figured, hey, I need some miners, I need to get some vision on the high ground, which will then open up my artillery play in the back. So the Godlobber will be able to shoot, hopefully do some good work against some of these archers and elite infantry. On top of that, we do have a couple of groups of the Dwarf Warriors with great weapons. Honestly, they do okay. I mean, they're going to be fighting White Lions and Swordmasters of Hoeth, which is a pretty uphill trade for them, but they have good melee defense, decent armor piercing, and they're just kind of there to hold them back and allow your Thunders and heavy guns in the back line to do most of the lifting. On top of that, we have two groups of the Longbeards with great weapons, so once they do break through the front line of Dwarf Warriors, we're going to be countercharging them with Longbeards with great weapons, and they're also quite good against Cav. If your opponent has like Dragon Princes or Reavers or anything like that, Longbeards with great weapons do have charge defense against large foes, which is pretty awesome for like a great weapon infantry, so they're very, very useful in this matchup. Three groups of Thunders in total, very good against the armor. They're going to be trying to pick apart the Swordmasters of Hoeth, who do actually have a shield effect, White Lions, and going after Lords and Dragons and Monsters. Thunders are very solid. And if the High Elves are going to try and counter them with archers, they can, relatively speaking, but Thunders are still going to be very stalwart. They have 80 armor, they have shields. These guys are very, very, sturdy against missile fire. So three Thunders in total. We do have a Rune Lord for our Lord, and he's going to be using the Rune of... I was about to say something from the book I was just reading, but he's going to be using the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin. So he's going to be using that to drag down elite infantry, which is very, very important because typically High Elves in this matchup are just going to be spamming like Swordmasters and White Lions and just going super wide with AP infantry, which is actually very tough to handle. In the back here, we do have the bodyguard of the Dwarf Rune Lord. We have some hammerers here, and these guys are going to be pretty solid. Once the initial Dwarf line engages and some of the Dwarf Warriors and other troops fight, these guys are going to be rushing in to intercept the troops. And they have good armor piercing, good combat stats. I think 1-to-1 they do lose against Swordmasters, but they can put up a pretty good fight. And honestly, with the Rune support, they're going to be pretty damn strong. One group of Giant Slayers here in the back just to bring down dragons and heavy cav and dragon princes and things like that. And we have the Dragonback Slayers back here in reserves, which are going to be defending the Godlobber. So definitely a very, very solid force in my opinion. For the forces of the High Elves, we've got some Reavers on the low ground, but the rest of the army is pretty much as expected. It's just going to be a ton of armor-piercing troops. So in total, it looks like he does have 4 groups of the Swordmasters of Hoeth. Now, that's going to be tough for sure. If you look at my infantry quality, I mean, I have Dwarf Warriors, I have a couple Longbeards, but for the most part, this is a very big spend on your infantry. We have White Lions here, and it looks like 4 Archers, which aren't a bad choice. They can fend off Gyrocopters, and Dwarves do bring some lightly armored troops with like Rangers and Bugman's Rangers, and even against Slayers. Slayers are a common pick, and Archers can pick Slayers apart, so that's not a bad pick at all. Teclis is going to be using the Enfeebling Foe and Regrowth, pretty standard stuff against the Dawi, so yeah, it's a solid force, and he's got a couple Spearmen just to kind of absorb the charges. Without further ado, guys, let's see how this War of Vengeance goes. So the Godlobber, in the meantime, is going to be shooting into the Archers up here, so I did get line of sight with these Valiant Miners as they rush the hill. And blasting charges are pretty good against High Elves. Now, I'm probably not going to be able to get the blasting charges on the Archers as much of a juicy target as they would be, but there are some Spearmen, and White Lions take a little bit of damage from blasting charges, but we're getting some freebies right here on the Archers. The Godlobber, I think, is a pretty safe choice. Now, the High Elves can bring bolt throwers to kind of try and snipe it and target it down, but you don't see that terribly often. Most of the time when I play High Elves on ladder, it's mostly just elite. So you can see the Godlobber is now going to be focusing down on the Swordmasters of Hoeth. It does deck out 4 models, which is quite nice, so these goblins are going to be flying in and doing some decent work against these guys, and yeah, it's kind of chipping away at them. The first volley of blasting charges going down right here, just getting a massive amount of damage on these Spearmen, and blasting charges are just so damn good against these type of targets. The second volley of blasting charges is going to be going down to the White Lions as they do charge up the hill, just taking a massive volley to the face, but their armor is going to protect them from most of that. The third volley did go down over here, so you can see pretty good free damage out of the gates, but the miners aren't going to be fighting up here in the hill, and now the basic strategy is for the miners to fall back to their elite troops here, and that's also going to be pulling the High Elves into the gunfire. Obviously, I have the ranged advantage the Dwarves typically do, so they're going to have to come to me unless they just want to take the full wrath of the Godlobber. So the High Elf forces are going to be rushing down the hill. The first volley of Thunders is going to be shooting in, going into the White Lions right here, but really I'm just waiting for the Swordmasters to get in range. That's going to be the juiciest of the juicy targets. Here the Thunders are going to be shooting in against the White Lions as well. It doesn't look like getting too many kills, but still working down that HP, doing a pretty good job. And now the true volleys are going to be coming in. So the Swordmasters of Hoeth, much like Slayers, do have a block mechanic. You can see they have the Bronze Shield, So I guess they like swat bullets out of the air with the swords, which is a very fantasy thing for them to do. But Goblobber's still shooting in, doing some pretty good work. But the Dawi Thunder line is firing quite aggressively here. And now you can see we're going to be pulling back the miners, putting them into reserves, and the Dwarf Warriors are going to be engaging against these Longbeards here. Not against these White Lions, but yeah, it's definitely going to favor the White Lions. But we do have that gunfire coming in, just kind of wearing these guys down. The Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin is also going to be going down to that Sword Master of Hoth, which is quite good. My opponent is coming around the flank with some of these guys, and he does have some Reavers, potentially able to disrupt my back line, but I have Giant Slayers as well as Longbeards with great weapons here, forming a bit of a wall, so hopefully that will be a good engagement. So the fighting is underway. The Swordmasters here taking massive volleys of fire from the Thunderers, and the Hammers are going to be charging in with the Rune Lord, and this is going to be a bloody fight. Enfeebling Foe has been popped, which is going to heavily mitigate my stats, 20 and 7, but still we have that 100 armor, which isn't the best against Swordmasters, but nonetheless, it's going to be a pit fight. The Rune Lord's also going to be charging in, lending his magic. The Rune of Wrath and Ruin, of course, was cast over there with the on the other group of Swordmasters, and you can see that doing some pretty heavy damage. Dwarf Warriors in the front line are faltering. The White Lions are going to be able to push through them. Dwarf Warriors, of course, are one of the lower tier infantry on the roster, but nonetheless, they're holding pretty well. Dwarf Warriors have okay leadership, and, they did their part. So now that the White Lines have broken through, the Thunders are going to take sides. So whenever anything breaks through, essentially, I'm forming this kind of kill box with my guns. And when I notice something start to falter, right, here I saw that there's Swordmasters fighting against Miners. So I was like, okay, these guys need to fall back. And the Miners I had up initially are now in reserve and can be used as another layer of conflict here. So I'm going to be falling back, and whenever something breaks through, I basically just sick all my gunfire on them, because then there's no line of sight obstruction. So Thunder's just shooting in, getting some great shots here on the White Lions, who have no mitigation against missiles, really. I think they do have like 25 or 15% or something, but they're still getting taken out pretty bad. Teclis is going to be leading the charge, and the Rune Lord is going to be falling back to try and help with this pressure. So my opponent does kind of slip through with these Reavers, but the Giant Slayers are hot on their tail. And yeah, he does pin in the Thunders, which is a little bit tough, but Reavers don't have the best AP. And you can see these angry Giant Slayers are going to start karate chopping these Reavers and doing a pretty good job. He's going to be rushing back towards the Goblobber, which is a good play. He's flowing very efficiently through the back lines of my army. Dragonback Slayers are going to be rushing to intercept, and Dwarven artillery crews are not pushovers. They still have decent defensive stats. What do they have? 29 melee defense. So yeah, the Dragonback Slayer is going to just tear these guys to shreds. But the front line is a little bit chaotic. Some of my troops are going to be routing up the hill here. You can see these hammers are indeed broken, but they put up a great fight. They were fighting up against two Swordmasters. Regrowth going down as well, so they're going to be retreating. And let's see what they're able. Yeah, 43 kills isn't bad against Swordmasters. Over here, Longbeards and some of my other troops are going to be beating up some of these White Lines and Spearmen, so that's good. But the High Elves are kind of blitzing into the back line, which is okay, because I have many layers. The Dwarves, of course, are a very onion-centric strategy, or the way I play them. When I'm trying my hardest, I guess you could say. But yeah, you really need to have layers and layers, because typically your front line's going to be buckling against like elite armor-piercing infantry. But if you can drag them through the mud, you can do pretty well for yourselves. So the Giant Slayers are now going to be engaging in melee. And what's cool about Giant Slayers also in this matchup is they have really good armor piercing. So against White Lions and Swordmasters, they're not going to be like regular Slayers who would struggle heavily against armor. So they're going to be fighting here pretty much to the bitter end. And really kind of a valiant hold by these guys, allowing my Thunders to fall back and continue firing. You can see we fall back here. We're getting beautiful volleys with this 57 group of model count Thunders, just blasting into these Swordmasters from both angles. These Thunders are shooting in here, and the Miners look like they're holding them pretty well. Yeah, they're probably going to be able to hold for a moment longer. The Goblobber did fall back as well, and it's back online. Going to be shooting at archers and some of these other troops. And the Bounce Fire is pretty much dead even. The Rune Lord is also going to be falling back with that Thunder Fire just withering in here and just pounding these High Elves. These I'm trying to remember what the term is that the Dwarves have with the High Elves, but I'll get it in the next cast. Swordmasters of Hoth here are going to be getting another Rune of Wrath and Ruin, the Master one, and I do have one more left in total. Now I'm going to be pulling back the Goblobber, forming another defensive line. So I do have some troops rallying, some Dwarf Warriors right here. I also have the Dragonback Slayers in reserve, so if he's able to push through here, I should be able to intercept those guys and do a pretty good job. So Swordmasters of Hoth do clean up these Miners, and it looks like they're going to turn about face and maybe start to chase the back line here and pressure, and it looks like they are going to be moving back. But they're just taking massive kill box fire here, just from all three groups of the Thunders, just pouring fire into the Swordmasters, which is just a thing of beauty, music to my Dawi ears. And you can see here the Dwarf Warriors are going to be charging in, and at this point the Dwarf Warriors plus the Slayers should be able to finish these guys off. And from there my Thunders are going to be switching onto other targets like Teclis, and I believe he has some other elite troops elsewhere. So these White Lines are trying to pour in as well onto the Thunders, who are going to be doing a bit of a tactical retreat here, getting ready to shoot and allowing these Slayers to saturate the front line. My Dwarf Warriors who did charge in there did break, but we also broke off the Swordmasters, so now it's just a small contingent of the White Lions. We're going to be getting crossfire pretty badly. They're going to charge in, take some shots here on the side from these Thunders, and yeah, you can see they're getting popped pretty damn bad. They're down to 16 models, they're shaken, and their martial prowess is gone. So on the front line, the Giant Slayer is still fighting pretty well. As far as their kills go, they have 93 kills, which really isn't bad at all. I mean, they've been fighting pretty good troops. So there's some Swordmasters in here, there's White Lions, there's a couple Spearmen as well, or one group of Spearmen. And they're able to cut through those guys relatively efficiently and actually almost break a couple of them, so that's really good. And And the Dragonback Slayers, in the meantime, kind of squeezed up and through the middle, so I did a bit of a linebacker blitz. They get the Enfeebling Foe on them, which is going to lower their combat stats, but 19 melee attack is enough to deal with 14 melee defense. And they're going to be karate chopping these archers and potentially just charging through to the back and shutting down these other groups. And the bounce of power is going a little bit in my favor, and I do have some troops kind of rallying in the distance. So the Dwarf Warriors and Longbeards, 47 models is quite a bit. I think I actually overchased over here. They're going to be rushing down the hill to kind of crack this back line. And you can see in the back, the proud Dwarven Gunners are pretty much back in their main firing position. So I was able to form another firing line, getting a very nice concave. So if my opponent does chase one of my Thunderers, he's going to be getting shot by the other ones, and that's a very important tactic to know when you're playing with the Dwarfs. Dwarf Warriors are going to be rushing back in, but just the Withering Fire coming in from these Thunders is going to be laying some heavy-duty punishment here on these White Lions, as well as these Spearmen. Looks like Teclis is going to be going into Duel the Dwarf here with Enfeebling Foe, but it's definitely not going to be good. He has 280 weapon strength, and the Rune Lord has 120 armor, so he's going to be super tanky against Teclis. And now the bounce of power definitely pretty heavily in my favor. You can see the dwarves have rushed down the hill, and they're just annihilating these archers. The Goblobbers firing in and punishing those swordmasters. They're wavering. Also, we have the Longbeards with great weapons who did rush down the hill, and they're going to be cleaving these elves, doing a great job here. So quite happy about that situation. And for the most part, the elves are going to be getting slapped with army losses here in a moment, as the last of their troops just kind of wither against the gunfire. Well played to my opponent. It was definitely a very, very fun game. I love those War of Vengeance battles between the Dwarves and the High Elves, although I don't know how Teclis fits. Maybe he probably wouldn't have been alive at that time, I guess, because I know it was quite a bit. I'm still learning all the lore. This is actually the first Warhammer Fantasy Battles book I've read. Is the Grudge Bearer here with Grombrindle, and it takes place in like Zufbar, and it's really, really cool for sure. But anyways, look forward to getting more into the lore as well. But yeah, the build's pretty solid. Miners with blasting charges in the front line served as a bit of a scouting party. They were able to get great blasting charges, generate damage, and from there they fell back and they were able to resecure my secondary line when my opponent did break through. Dwarf Warriors did their job, 61, 34, 11. Obviously, you're going to be fighting elite troops, but you want to at least put a dent in them, right? That's why I think these guys are worth it. Longbeards did good. The group of Hammers got 55 kills, but they were fighting like two groups of the Swordmasters, so that's a pretty honorable way to go. Thunders were the MVPs, of course, with the Master Rune of Wrath and Ruin doing a really good job kind of slowing the advance. And last but not least, the Giant Slayers and the Slayers, I think, were solid. So I really like that build quite a bit. I think going wide like that and trying to drag the High Elves through the mud is pretty powerful. Now, you can combat it in other ways. You can go with the triple Rune Lord and Runesmith. You can use the Hammer of Carrick-Draz to kind of, punish their stats and try and fight them out that way. But personally, I feel like this is a little bit more effective. And if they do go with like a big dragon or something like that, or monsters play, Dragon Princes, the Thunders, and Giant Slayers are going to be really good as well. Yeah, for my opponent's build, I felt like it was quite solid. Teclis is a good choice. Enfeebling Foe, he has regrowth to be able to heal up those elite infantry. And yeah, he has some good utility for sure. And the Potion of Croy means you don't really have to spend healing on him, which is very, very nice. White Lions are good. I mean, yeah, no complaints. You guys heard my analysis of the build earlier. I think it's a solid build, and had a couple things gone a little bit differently, the game could have gone the other way. So very well played to my opponent, Han Reinhardt Cien. Look forward to running into you again on ladder, and hopefully you guys enjoyed this Dwarf versus High Elf game. Have an excellent night, guys, and take care.